Chris Broussard now joins us live. Can you acknowledge today you're a little concerned with your pretty often hurt, often flaky Nets? A little concerned.
I am a little concerned, Colin. I will acknowledge that. Now, I'm not so much concerned about the defense because they have been a middle-of-the-pack defense since the All-Star break. Now, that might sound like, oh, that's something to brag about. Well, that's all they need with their firepower on offense. They've actually been about a top 5 defense in the league as far as opponents' field goal percentage since the All-Star break. So that's number one. Their defense, I'm not worried about. Kyrie, that's always in the back of your head, right? Is he going to go AWOL or is something going to happen with him? But I'm not worried about that. I think their locker room is good. I think they have the right attitude. I think all the stars are bought in that it's all in on winning the championship. Don't worry about individual accolades. What concerns me, Colin, is that they are going to go into the playoffs with probably about 10 games together.
Maybe.
With their best 3 players.
Maybe.
If that. And for them to win the championship like that would be completely unprecedented. And I get it. They've got historical level talent. But there have been other teams that have had this level of talent. Bosh, Wade, LeBron, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, that couldn't come together that quickly. So that worries me a bit. I expected them to have maybe 15 to 20 games together going into the playoffs, which even that's not a lot. So when they get into a tough series, if they do, and push, it's a tough 6 or 7 game series, and the other team is really defending them hard, and they got to defend hard, I wonder with that little bit of experience together how they're going to handle it. So, yeah, I'm concerned. And then Kevin Durant or any of the stars, they're all injured here and there. Kevin Durant, Colin, has not played more than 6 consecutive games in 23 months, basically 2 years. And so, the playoffs in the first rounds are every other day, essentially.
Yeah.
And so those are the 2 things that concern me about Brooklyn.
I'll circle back to the Knicks in a second. I want to talk about Frank Vogel. So Vogel's a guy that likes bigs. He's got a little old school. When he's had bigs, he's elevated them. And LeBron and AD are out. And I watch the Lakers, and I'm like, I know we don't want to talk about Vogel because it's LeBron's world and AD. Are you a little surprised how competent the Lakers have been, being led by Kyle Kuzma, Dennis Schroeder, KCP? Are you surprised at all?
Well, they've caught some breaks. You get Utah without Donovan Mitchell. You get Charlotte without not only LaMelo Ball, but Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier were out as well. They caught Brooklyn, of course, without James Harden, and then Kyrie gets ejected. So they've caught some breaks, but I don't want to take anything away from them, Colin, because they've played well. And you mentioned Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel is a very good coach. When they hired him, look, Ty Lue would have been fine. That's who everybody wanted. There wouldn't have been a problem with that. But when they hired Frank Vogel, I thought to myself, that's a good hire. He can coach. And I went back to when he was in Indiana. Forget Orlando. Went back to Indiana. And, of course, Miami had the big 3. And Indiana took them 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals and then 6 games. So the big 3, it was LeBron, Wade, Bosh versus Paul George, Roy Hibbert, and Lance Stevenson. All right? That was Vogel's big 3.
I know.
And he was giving them all they wanted, right? So I knew, and I think LeBron knew that too. Remember, you didn't get any pushback from LeBron, no problems from LeBron. He showed up at his opening press conference. So LeBron knew in the back of his head this was a good hire, and he's proven to be.
Yeah, by the way, as you well know, Joy, those Pacer series with Miami were crazy tight. They were great, and they had Roy Hibbert and Paul George, who historically has struggled in the playoffs. Okay, let's get back to the Knicks. I didn't love Thibodeau as a hire. Don't know him, but I thought, God, it's a retread hire. He works guys to death. And then I watched Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett, and this is not a mirage, is it possible the Knicks have finally, 20 years, righted the ship?
I would not go that far. Now, look, this is a great season. for them. It's a good season. Obviously, Julius Randle has emerged as a guy that looks like not only a one-time All-Star, but someone that could become a perennial All-Star.
Yeah, yeah.
The front office moves. They kept Scott Perry from the old regime. He's still doing a great job for them. And obviously got Leon Rose and Worldwide West. But this, Colin, next year, this won't be enough. This looks good because nobody expected anything. And they've been garbage for the past several years. So now mediocrity is looking good. Next year, they'll have to take another step, and it's going to take getting more players. But Thibodeau maximizes talent. Look at those Chicago teams. He had Derrick Rose. Carlos Boozer was a good player. And then Joakim Noah, Luol Deng. They had really good players, but only one star. And they had the best record in the East when Miami had the best big three. So this is what Thibodeau does. The surprise to me, Colin, was that he couldn't turn it around in Minnesota, which really might be an indictment on some of the players there, more so than an indictment on Thibodeau.
All right. What do you make of Steph Curry? Isn't that crazy? Best stretch of his career. Best 3 weeks in his career right here. Kind of amazing, right?
Colin, he's getting doubled off every ball screen, off every dribble handoff. He's doubled, sometimes triple teamed. And the thing about him is he makes such difficult shots. And sometimes the defense is playing him tough. Like they get a hand up, they stay with his dribble, and he's still hitting these shots. It's unbelievable. It's unfortunate he won't be able to win the MVP. It reminds me of the year that Kobe averaged 35, scored 81 points in that game against Toronto, but didn't win the MVP because the Lakers finished with the 7th seed. So Golden State in the 9th seed, he's not going to be able to win the MVP. But This is phenomenal what he's doing. And I want to see him playing meaningful games, like battling for a championship again.
I'm watching these highlights. They look like the highlights you'd see at the end of a year. Like if you took somebody's 7 best plays, he had them one night. I mean, it's just that he is
right.
His range. I mean, look at this right here. What is that? A follow.
You know the stat, Colin, right? This week he had 3 different games where he made at least 10 threes. I think he made 11 in 2 of them. Only one other player has more than 3 such games in his career. That's Klay Thompson. Steph's got like 20. Klay's got like 7. Damian Lillard and someone else got to have 3. So think about that. He did in 1 week what everyone else has taken a career to do in an era when guys are jacking up threes left and right. So it's unbelievable. I want to say this, Colin. You remember a couple weeks ago, Brian Windhorst threw out that LeBron was recruiting Steph, right?
Yeah.
My initial reaction was there's no reason Steph should leave Golden State. That's ridiculous. He's got his rings. Stay with the franchise you built, blah, blah, blah. The more time goes on, and we're just talking weeks, the less egregious Steph leaving Golden State feels to me, Colin. Because here's what I do if I'm Steph. I go back next year. We got Klay coming back. We'll have Draymond. We got Wiseman healthy. Let's see what we are. If we are a top 4 or 5 team in the West, go to the second round or so, and look like we're a few minor moves away from being able to really, really compete for a championship the next year, then I'm good. I stay. But if they're a 7th, 8th seed, maybe Klay's not quite the same, Draymond showing more age, and they get blasted in the first round of the playoffs, and Steph continues to play at this level, then I think he has to look at, not for his legacy. His legacy is set. We know that. He's got 3 rings. But why should he play the last 5 years of his career, especially if he's still in his prime, not playing for championships?
Right.
This is the era where you move, right? I don't look at Kobe any greater than I look at LeBron because Kobe stayed with one team. I don't look at KD and Harden any worse than a guy that stayed with one team. So I think Steph, depending on what happens next year, I would not be mad at him in the least bit. In fact, I'd be excited if Golden State doesn't have enough. If he went to a team like a Lakers, if LeBron's still playing well, or a Milwaukee, or somebody that can win a championship with him. Especially, Colin, if Brooklyn, I know you don't believe this, if Brooklyn runs through the league and becomes like the next Golden State, then yeah, I'd love to see Steph go somewhere, team up with some other stars, and give them a run for their money.
Yeah, we need more stars in L.A. because we're so starved for star athletes right now. I just get excited talking about that stuff. Chris Broussard, good talking to you, bud. That'd be crazy.
All right, Colin.